so I'm John Clayton, the CTO of FileWave, and typical in all of my talks, kind of start them off the same way. You've had lunch, you've now had your heads filled from PN, so we're going to do something just to lighten things up a wee bit, right? You know what's coming, right? Audience participation, stage 1. So let's have you all do a simple exercise, right? Stand up, everybody stand up. We're going to get a bit of energy. You too. Cool, easy, right? It's just a simple stretch, down to the sides, up to the top. I have to go slower, right? Down to the sides. And you know what's coming? I know you've eaten a little while ago, so this shouldn't be too dangerous, but let's do this. Okay, so we're going for the star jump. A little bit of action. Cool. Hey, very good, very good. Fantastic. I'm done. Oh, wow, that's better than a couple of years ago. That's cool. That's cool. All right, so the easier part. You've done the hard part. I want to begin with a test of your knowledge. So a little quiz. Let's see who knows the answers. Okay, so just a raise of hands. The FileWave GUI that you know and love now, how old is it? V12, right? The thing you're using now. Who thinks 5 years? Who thinks about 5 years? Okay, all right. What about 8 years? A few more, let's say double, okay. What about, give or take, what about 10 years? Okay, now, not everybody has put up their hand. Wow. No, wherever this thing goes. Right, now, it's roughly about 10 years old, give or take. Question number 2. When is software too old? So, are there any JavaScript programmers here? Because the first answer is for you, right? If you think it's 6 months, yeah, all right. Okay, who thinks about 2 to 5 years? Too old. Oh, okay. What about 5 to 10 years? A few more? Yeah, okay. It's interesting. I was at a conference recently. It was a JavaScript conference. Don't be too harsh on me. JavaScript conference, and they were talking about the age of software. Now, for domain software, that's this stuff we have, right? Not the libraries, not the SMS toolkits, not the databases, not those things. For domain software, the half-life is 10 years. So just trying to prove that we're not too old. All right. Okay, last question. And you'll notice there is no answer for you here. When should software be rewritten? When should it be replaced? Anybody want to take a stab? Last stage of audience participation.
When it no longer works.
Oh, it works. Oh, we're done. Okay. Good one. Well, I think the answer is, I was never a consultant, but this is the typical consulting answer, right? It depends. It depends. What are you trying to accomplish? What's your audience? What are you doing? What do they need to do? Probably a pretty obvious answer. So I have an announcement to make. I'm very, very happy to make the announcement. I'm really, really pleased. This is something I'm personally really excited about. And I find it kind of hard to express my excitement. It's sort of like asking, how do you hear, particularly for me, right, come from Europe, how do you tell somebody something's awesome? You can't use that word, right? It's awesome. It has no meaning, right? We tend to make everything super amazing. So I am excited to be able to announce that FileWave is officially producing a web admin. Okay. I was going to ask, because I didn't know you were going to clap. That was my fear. Big fear. Because then I was coming to this, it's like, who thinks that's a good idea? Right, but you've done that, so cool. But if there's one thing that is more important to me that you take away from this, it's not the web in the admin. That's not what I want to impress here. Far more important, it's the admin experience. And we'll get into this. I'm going to go through some of our goals that we have. When we go down this path, it's a big path, it's a journey. But it's really important for me to impress upon you the focus that we have now is a little bit modified. We've always followed the idea of stories and listen to what you're trying to do. But there's a huge focus now on what's the experience? What do you feel? So let's start that. I would like to go through some of the goals that we have. And there you see it. Delightful experience. So beyond just saying, yes, we have a web application, right? Or we're going to make a web application. It needs to be delightful. I want everybody to leave, to use the new software and leave it going, yeah, that was cool. I enjoyed using it. Not just, I got my job done. Okay, that's all right. And it's funny because it dovetails straight into what Mark was saying, right? Go beyond what the experience is, make it enjoyable, make people happier. So I'm glad he said that. So clearly, FileWave being accessible, obviously being a web app, yes, it's accessible so that it should run on desktop. It should run on the laptops, on whatever device you can get a web browser on, and that means it needs to be adaptable. And by that I mean let's not take that super complex, beautiful desktop tree control and cram it into mobile. I think we all know, that's a recipe for failure. That's not going to work. But there's a lot more to adaptability than just the controls. There's other subtleties in there as well. We have a huge opportunity to improve on the existing navigation on the workflows, things like searching, filtering. How do you go through the mental model of FileWave, right? There are different objects in there. Some are more important than others. How do you jump between them easily? So this is a great opportunity for us to take that and put it right at the top. Again, delightful experience. Make it easy to move between the different pieces of information that we have. And making new scenarios possible. One super obvious one is, there's an iPad up here. That's a new scenario. I can walk around with my FileWave console now. And there are others that we've seen as well. We are designing with mobile in mind. Now that doesn't mean we're designing a thing that's only going to run on a mobile. This is not a mobile phone, just in case. That's only going to run on a mobile phone. It means taking care of what is the environment that it's running within. Well, they have bad connections, right? Bad data connections. It's not always there. It's going to flip between cell towers. So when you think about what the console today does, it preloads everything, which is very cool for some things, right? We can search the clients and groups hierarchy instantly, milliseconds, across hundreds of thousands of items. Well, we're going to have to rethink that. We're going to have to change the way that works because mobile first. Keep mobile in mind. So we need to do things like paging, scrolling, right? Infinite scrolling. What do we do with caching? These are things that are definitely part of the goals and what we're trying to take care of when we produce the better experience. There are some internal goals as well. To be able to release more frequently. And this is going to come into play about when we talk about the incremental release cycle of the new product. But enabling a faster release cycle is crucial. It's not that we would like to release every single week. That's going to be a little bit tricky. And I don't think anybody would really like that. But having that ability, that is important. And I think you get the idea to be more story-orientated. When we talk about experience, you need to focus on what is it that we're trying to accomplish. That's one part of it. But how How are we trying to get there? What are the different ways that we can get there? How do we present information in the UI? How do we link it together? How can you filter down? So it all comes into the story of what we're trying to accomplish. And this will set the foundation, our internal technical foundation for the next 10 years. Last goal. It is our goal to replace the front end as you know it today, to have one console. It raises some interesting technical challenges. I'm sure you're thinking, yeah, but how do I read the security descriptor? How do I read this file that has root access? And we've thought of that with, I don't think there's anything that FileWave does that can't be done on the web. So one console. So how are we going to do this? How? First we get a clicker. Cool. So I jokingly put this slide up there, right? Because, what do you mean how? Come on, it's a web interface, right? You just pull down the web technology that you found while browsing through some news feed about JavaScript this morning while you were at breakfast. There's no history, it's a new UI. This is really easy, right? Let's party, it's gonna be fantastic. But I think we need a little perspective. Let's take a look at what we're facing. The admin console that we know and love today is 240,000 lines of code. One of the backend services that it talks to is 36,000 lines of code. So just thinking about the code alone, and that's not all we need to deal with, is 276,000 lines of code. So that's a job. But there's more. This is really important. I talked about the age of FileWave at the beginning, right? The admin UI is 10 years old. And there's a temptation, I think it's specific to IT, I could be wrong, but to take a look at that and say, 10 years old, that's the old one. We're going to do the new one. Yeah, those guys don't know. We're the new guys, right? Doing new fancy web UI. No, they don't know anything. That's wrong. There's 10 years of blood, sweat, and tears. There's 10 years of experience and learning inside that UI, embodied inside those 200 and so on 1,000 lines of code. We need to use the good ideas. We cannot ignore what is already in there and just say, ha, we know better. We have to take what's there and take the best out of it. We want to provide extra value. Third point on the slide. It would be great to have a web UI that replaced everything that the FileWave admin currently does, but then if we do that without providing additional value, I'm not sure that's a fantastic idea. And additional value can come in different ways, right? The filtering and searching, the layout, this navigation concept of how you reach the information. That's all extra value. So I think the last point is very interesting, complex. It would be irresponsible, in my view, to replace all of the admin UI in a single shot. And you might say, huh? Why? Who went through V4? Okay, so you have an inkling, right? So first of all, if we wait until we're completely finished with the entire product, we miss out on all the feedback. We miss out on all those opportunities to say, is that really the story? Is it really the experience we're trying to deliver? So we don't want to do that. The faster we deliver the stories of value, the sooner you have them in your hand, the sooner you can start to take these new opportunities and employ them within your organization. So I think it's a win-win, but it does mean we use two tools for a certain amount of time. So that's a nice summary, right? When I think of this, how do we do this? I started the slide deck with how, right? How do we accomplish this? It's a complex problem. Plan for success is my simple answer. Every complex problem benefits from being broken down into parts. again, this idea of incremental delivery, right? Don't start to try and replace the whole thing. Find out what makes sense is the first, we call it in the industry MVP, right? Minimum viable product. Find out what that is, deliver that. And then keep building on top of that. Choose technology that helps you reach your goals. So we've done a lot of research in the JavaScript field. We've picked out the tools that we want. And importantly, we've picked out what we don't want to do. And a great example is, I'll tell you immediately, we're not producing a native web app for the phone or the tablet. And you might think, why wouldn't you want to do that? It's simple, we don't need to. The technology that we are using can give us that if we want to. If we need to take that step, we can. And it will be still a great experience. But looking at the technology to serve our needs, that's the important aspect of that. I think the most important point, though, is the last. Why reinvent the wheel? How about we find somebody that's done this already? And we have. We also searched long and hard on this one, but we've found experts that have done this already. They've been down this path before. So let's recycle. How? Part 2. I would like to introduce Christoph Boxler. He's the founder and head of UX at a company called Kando Image in Switzerland, a stone's throw away from our offices. And we're working extremely closely together to turn all of that complex problem into a reality. And yes, we will see. You'll get a look at what we have later on. So Chris and his team are experts in UX, which was primary, right? You see that in the story now. That's a primary driver for us. They've been working with us since August, and they're specialists in doing exactly what we want to do, not just building a website. There's a huge distinction between that and taking a native application and bringing it to the web. And they've done that already. So without further ado, Chris, I leave it to you to introduce how you're going to tackle that problem.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
It's an honor to be here with you and working on the future of FileWave. We love to introduce you the new experience, the new user experience of FileWave, and we invite you to be part of the journey. UX is not something which is done by some crazy designers or consultants. Thank you.
Sorry.
It's not just done by delivering a new GUI or interface. UX is just much more. It's about communication. It's about listening to users. It's about challenging existing things, coming up with some fresh ideas, working together with designers, developers, and users to solve problems. And the most important thing is UX is about to create new value, additional value for you as a FileWave administrator and make your life easier. Let me show why we think that UX is important for FileWave. Let's start with some facts. This is from a Forrester research study, and it says that user experience is a decisive driver for business applications and their acceptance. 90% of all users say that an easy-to-use business application has a direct influence on their job motivation. 80% of users leave a hard-to-use application just after a maximum of 3 attempts, if they don't have to use it. And 50% of usage-related errors could be reduced by a well-designed application. So what's the state of user experience for enterprise applications? I would like to start with a quote from our colleague at Frog Design. Enterprise UX, or the user experience of business software, represents a crisis of sorts, at least from a designer perspective, and I fully agree. We all know really ugly software. Let's have a look at 2 examples, a positive one and a negative one. And let's start with Infor. Infor is a multi-billion-dollar software company. And they are using design as a core element of strategy and differentiation. They even have a big graphic in their headquarters in New York saying, "No fugly software." It's their words, but I agree. So they do a good job using user experience as a differentiator. Then on the other side, we had SAP, and they lost customers because of bad user experience years ago. We even have background information on that. So one of their biggest clients threatened to replace SAP. So they sent a team of 60 UX designers, interaction designers to their headquarters of the client, with the only goal to come up with the future SAP experience. They did well. After 2 years, they came up with the new SAP Fiori experience. They even won prizes. SAP offers user experience as a service for their clients now. It's amazing how they developed from a really bad user experience to the state they have now. Another example is Microsoft. They are rebuilding their experience for all the business applications, mainly Microsoft Dynamics 360. And Salesforce, the #1 CRM company in the world. They did an amazing job. They had an ugly interface for years, an oldish Windows-style GUI, and they completely redesigned the experience, and they're very successful. They see it as a USB. So that's just some examples how the big guys or big players are doing it. So what about UX and FileWave? Oops. I would like to start with 5 UX design principles. They all form the new FileWave user experience. Number 1 is simple. That means to support you to complete your daily job intuitively and quickly. Quite simple. Delightful. We all love beautiful products. Just think of Apple. And we deserve delightful products for enterprise applications as well. Thoughtful and elegant craftsmanship that enriches your work experience. Consistent, number 3. Expect a consistent interaction and visual design language. Well-known patterns. Once you learn something, you can use it everywhere. Thinking of filters and sorting, whatever lists. The FileWave experience will be personalized, not just to your installation, let it be MDM, pure MDM installation or multi-platform installation, but it also adapts to a role like a service representative or an expert admin. It shows you the right information at the right time. And last but not least, it's adaptive. It adapts or it fits to desktop computers with 4K monitors. It will be great to have lists of clients there. It will adapt to laptop size, tablet. It's touch optimized and mobile. So, how we do it? As John already mentioned, we evaluated the best technology and decided to go for a battle-proofed and modern front-end stack. That was one thing. We also profit from an enterprise-grade design system, which is being used by the largest e-commerce and financial companies in the world. And yes, we also checked the market, had a look at some of the competitors. But the single most important thing we did was listening to our users. I'll show you how. We started in August, and instead of assuming that we already know what you want and define the initial feature set by ourselves, we went back to the drawing board and wanted to learn from you. Remember what John said. The FileWave experience is more than just a web GUI. It's a journey together with you as a customer. It's an iterative process, and it depends on your feedback. So we started in August, had 11 interviews covering education, enterprise, both in the States and in Europe. We analyzed the needs, asked about what the users like, dislike, the wishes. We observed their daily tasks. We realized usability obstacles, and we recorded more than 30 hours of video. And that was the base for summarizing the findings. Let me share what we've learned from the interviews. Just the most important things. The top 5 likes we got is they all liked FileWave because it's simple. So the simplicity, the everyday tasks, such as creating a file set and associate it to a group of clients or client, are easy to do. FileWave is reliable. The system works very reliable, and you can trust it. One client told us that FileWave saved him during the Apple High Sierra update when rolling out 10,000 of clients in parallel. Different views, number 3. Users love the different views for clients, file sets, and some of them, and associations. They like the ease of switching between them. Inventory queries. Users find inventory queries very powerful, and some of them use it extensively for all kinds of reports and smart groups. And last but not least, there came a lot. They are really happy with the support. So that's for you guys here from support. That was amazing to hear. But we also asked about what we can improve, the dislikes. Number 1 is navigation. Could be easier. For example, instead of searching for a client ID and going back and forth, it would be great if you just click on it, drill down, and you get to the next view. So it should be easier to navigate. Drag and drop. Sometimes it's hard to see where something is being dropped. Users don't use it very much because they think it's error-prone. The user interface. Many users mentioned the UI to be too dark and therefore unfriendly. Also, they think that it has an oldish look and feel and looks cluttered due to the features added over time. Number 4, search. The search functionality offers too much unwanted results. As it is not context sensitive, sometimes it doesn't find all the needed information. And the last point is model update. Sometimes it takes too long. It can take a while. Concurrent use between multiple admins is not easy to manage. We had one admin saying us that they stand up and shout to coordinate the model updates within their office. So we realized that there are some common things, but we also realized that there are many different workflows, feature requests, and ways to improve the existing experience. After listening to all of the feedbacks, it became clear that there was no simple story to cover all the needs. But we have to start a journey somehow. I couldn't say that better than Sue. The journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. And I'm happy to show you a first step. A first story created based on your feedback. Just one of many to come. May I introduce you to Sam? Sam is a teacher, and he just got a new MacBook. But Sam has a problem, because he can't print. Therefore, he called support. Alex is working as a service representative and is not the FileWave expert. First level support. First, Alex needs to identify the client by asking Sam for an asset tag or client ID. Alex then searches for Sam's client and analyzes the problem. The problem was caused by a failed installation of the printer profile. and Alex has to reinstall that printer profile. Within seconds, the new printer profile has been successfully reinstalled. Sam and Alex are both happy. We are happy too, to show you how that will look like and offer you a first sneak peek of the new FileWave user experience. John, or should I say Alex, will take over now. Thank you. I'll just remove that.
Okay. What do you think? Circles. They've got circles. That's one of the warm-up moves, right? That's the next one I'm going to get you to do. Okay, so I'm going to go through the story. Please keep in mind, this is not the app. This is a clickable prototype. It's part of the design system, the modern design system that's in use, and it makes use of the components that eventually make it into the product. So it isn't just, I don't know if any of you were involved in product development, but one of the old things that used to happen was you would have, here's your Photoshop file, and then as a dev, you'd have to pick out all of that and then somehow put it into code, which is, loses a lot. This contains the components. This contains actually a lot of the substrate that we bring straight into the product, and the developers use it directly. So we're with our story. I'm Alex, right? And so I've received a call, and Sam is like, new printers have arrived, and for whatever reason, the profile hasn't deployed, okay? So let's cover this screen first. This is actually story number 2 that we're looking at. Story number 1 is the one I'm supposed to be presenting, but, what's this? This up here? Imagine you can choose an association, and you say, I want to keep an eye on that, because some of them I care about, and some of them I don't. But some of them I really need to know, did it work? And if it didn't work, I can touch it, if it's a tablet, right? And drill down, right? Again, navigation, drill down, just tell me why. Split it out for me. We have all the information. It does contain the primary services, as you already have them today. There's some of that information that is in the dashboard. This was also part of the feedback. Many people use the primary services, but the other stuff, not so much. Okay, so primary services are important. But the real value, the idea behind this, is it's the one-stop shop for, have I got a problem? So I don't just get the stuff I'm interested in at the top. I've got the primary services and also the clients with errors and warnings. Nobody saw that scroll, did they? So I'm scrolled down to the bottom of the iPad and I don't see that up there. So I'm going to do this, old tech. You're going to have to look really, really hard. Those of you with eye issues, right, so what I was trying to get across was that. There's all this information on the screen. I know you can't see it, but some of you can see it. And I'm not going to ask you to all come up to the front. That would be kind of crowded. I'm going to try something. I'll go to the next screen. Nope.
Have you tried unplugging it and plugging it back in again? John's never worked in support, so he doesn't know, but...
Am I going to have to do that for every single thing that I touch? Okay, we're going to try this, right? We're going to go back here, and we're going to say, oh, yeah. Woo. Alex. Okay, so we get the point, right, with dashboard. Right, so I'm trying to show the story, okay? You'll see actually the machine I'm looking for is that one there. Sam Miller. I could just click on that. I could be done. But that would make for a really boring product presentation, so I'm not going to. All right, so I'm going to search. And notice how, well, there's two things I want you to notice when I do this. First is how amazingly quick I typed on the iPad. Clickable mockup, right? Benefit. The other thing is I didn't choose what I was searching. That's the more important thing, right? I didn't have to say, I want to search for against the. We want to make it easier, so just search for the client ID. Sam told me, the conversation went roughly like, hey, can you give me the asset tag? And he went, asset what? No, the asset tag, I don't know what that is. What's the client ID? Okay, so it gives me that. So I get this, so partial search, I can see initially, I'll try and point some of this out. I've got the clients, some of the client groups, some of the file set groups and associations. And again, here he is, right at the top. But I don't want that. I want to show what the filtering does. So I'm going to click on Show All at the top here. Okay. Pretty standard, so I get a list of everything that matches the criteria that I typed in. No surprise there. The client groups, file sets, and these tabs at the top, they would continue the search. You wouldn't have to go back. Right? So you can take that search through and just not have to reset it. That was another piece of feedback. If I want to search for something else, I have to reset it. Yes. One person. Everybody else want to do that? Just get it off your chest now. Just, yeah. Cool. But that's not all. That's good. Okay, and I've got some interesting colors here down the side to indicate status. There's the last connect date. I want to mention something about the columns here. Who has ever asked for, let me have customized columns in a view? A few hands, yeah. A common request. Now, this doesn't come out on the first story, but the underlying framework is there. The UI has, so the key point, the UI has no idea what the columns are. It is not asking for those columns. It's just saying, give me the results. All the metadata comes back and says, here you go. Those are the columns you are going to show. And it sets the foundation for being able to say, hey, I only want to see these ones or whatever in every single view across the entire product. So while that may not come out in the first iteration, no, wait, that will not come out in the first iteration, right? The foundation is there. We've listened. And that's what I meant before about trying to improve on that experience and set the foundation for the next 10 years. So putting the building blocks in place already. Okay, next stage. So I've got this bunch of tons and tons of these things. Okay, it's a paged architecture. You see that in the mock, right? It's only loading a few right now. So if you're at home on a slow connection or somewhere or on a train, this shouldn't matter. Yes, you still need a connection, kind of clear, but we're not preloading everything. I'm going to hit that thing up there, the little filter. Okay, the filtering that we see on the left-hand side currently says device type, category, groups, a bit of a mock information right now. If you were to look at that in detail, you might go, This is the one I want to focus on. Right now, I know Sam has told me it's a Mac. And there's iPads, iPad Pro, Chromebook, and so on. But if I didn't have any Macs, it wouldn't show up there. That's the idea about that adaptability, right? Automatic personalization based on the data that you have. There's not a hard listed set of filtering criteria. It's based on what you have. So I know he's got Mac. Let's press that. Okay, clearly it filters down and shows me all of the computers that are Macs. There's another thing I'm not going to show, but I would love to explain, because we've already done one search we call it the global search. Maybe we'll come up with a better name in the future. But the very first thing I did was global search. But there's a search button up there. There's a search magnifying glass up there. And the idea there is, yeah, okay, I've done one search, but I don't know about you, but so often I find situations where I get the initial subset of data. I want to then refine that with another search that maybe isn't in the filters. Oh, cool. Well, then I can just type in there, and it re-filters, so you've got a double search possibility. So I'm going to click on Sam, the top one there. All good so far? Yay. One person right down the back. Yay. Okay. The client info panel. All right, so here I am. I've finally found his computer. And what's interesting about this panel here, this is the client information. It's everything we have on the client. Everything. That's the goal. Everything in one place. Split into 3 parts. You see it, I hope you can see that there. The section number 1 here, number 2, and number 3. So section number 1, what's the state? What's happening? Give it that's the first thing you need to see, especially in this story that we're talking about, in this support story. Somebody's called me and there's a problem. So the first thing I needed to see is, what's up? What's going on? Secondly, if we get a little deeper in the whole conversation, what is this for a computer? So I call that the identity panel. Where is it? What is it? What's the IP? Type of computer, those type of things. This is also driven by metadata. The UI doesn't know that those are the fields that it's supposed to display. But it does know that they're the important ones. Again, it opens the door later for you to be able to say, well, I don't care about building. I've only got one, all right? Maybe I want to see something else up there. So adaptability, customization. And the last one, that's everything else that we know about the computer, the client system. And can't see it here, but it will be searchable. So you've got all the information in one place. We also have the tabs, file sets, groups, and so on across the top. And now my job is to figure out, okay, something didn't work. Okay, 14% complete. I'm going to click on that. But I could also click on that, right? So let's try the one on the far right. So it took me to the File Sets tab. It automatically filtered by error. I know it sounds silly that it's only one step that it saved me, but I didn't have to think. I've got some errors, show me what they are. I don't have to then go and select the error myself. Okay, so printer profile. Didn't install, some kind of problem with it. All right, so the idea is, let's reinstall that. Printer profile, okay, the animation's a bit odd, right? Profiles are not really that big, but the idea is this. It installed, done. That's the experience that we're looking for. Okay, can we run back to the slides, please? Cool. Oh, just done that, good. So in summary, you get this taste of I hope, the delightful experience. Right? The tools are there to make it a better experience. The design of this is based entirely on the story that we presented. We've thrown a lot of stuff out, and you might be thinking, yeah, so where's my licenses? DEP, VPP, there's a billion other things. Story by story, we replace the tool. That's the rule. So that's the first one. Which comes back to iterations, right? So there'll be more iterations of value. And you can probably see service desks could use this already in the first iteration form. Even if there's no dashboard, right? You still have, the key thing is, what can you do when you have this portable UI where all of the client information is in one place? Very cool. This is the future of the FileWave experience. Okay, so last quote that I'd like to share. And it's not one I ask, but it's one I get. I was kind on the slide. I said every week, but it's a bit more frequent than that. So, are you done yet? We plan to release the first iteration of Value in Q2 2018. I would like your help. Maybe you have an idea. What's in a name? If you can think of a name for this, that would be great. If you want to, write to name@filewave.com, because, and Chris will entirely back me up here. He's looked at me odd a number of times when I've said the web UI, right? He's like, well, he cringes at that. So to help Chris, we need a new name. Please write name, company, and your suggestion for what we should call it. And I would really appreciate that. We would all find that cool. How much time do we have? Do we have time for Q&A? Was that yes? Was that no?
We have a few minutes if we need it.
Okay. Everybody gets one question. Are there any questions? Anything that we can try and clarify? Great, fantastic. No, we have one. I'm sorry?
Like building of file sets?
Yep.
How is building a file sets going to work with a web interface?
Yeah, so the idea behind that is that the whole root, anything that requires root access or all of that heavy lifting is still a daemon process. You just need to talk to it differently. So you could literally, in a very simplified way, rip the UI off the existing product. Now we wouldn't do this, but rip the UI off the existing product and say, hey, that's the thing that creates file sets. And now just get the web UI to talk to the server to tell it to do the thing. I mean, that's kind of the essence of solving that problem. So we have the plumbing. Let's just put the pieces together. So that's what I mean by, it doesn't really seem like a difficult ask. It would even open up new possibilities, which this is a good question. Would anybody use a tablet to create a file set? You would? Oh, damn. Hey, PN's the PO, right? Are there any other questions?
John, it would be great if the back end of the new FileWave, I call it next generation, is API based. So when in the first release or second release, not everything is automated yet. We can do it ourselves with talking to APIs.
So the question is, wouldn't it be cool if it was all API based? Yes, it will be. The front end will talk to a new HTTP back end. The front end, anything it does must go through that layer, because it's also our wish to have that RESTful interface for everything that FileWave does. So let's just do it iteratively. Yay. All right.
Very awesome. And that's all going to exist moved to our existing server.
So the question, is it all going to be on our existing servers? Yep. Yep. That was easy.
Okay, what about multiple admins? Will we have to stop production to do a model update?
Initially, we are not going to change dramatically the back-end architecture, aside from adding in the HTTP layer on there. So I know and feel your pain with model update in certain situations. I know you're nodding. I get it, I really do. I really feel the pain. But it's 280,000 lines of code, and we're trying to go story by story. Eventually, yes, we want to solve that problem as well. Initially, that is not part of the scope. So I guess another way to say it is, there's no change to the way multi-admin works. It's not a single user system. One last one, let's do that, and then we're out of time.
Why do you feel you need a new name for the new UI? Why not just call it FileWave?
Could do. I feel like I need to change. Yep. Okay. Thank you very much for listening, for paying attention. I appreciate it. Thank you.